Okay, good morning everybody and welcome to the Caloundra Chambers for our ordinary meeting for October 2022. Welcome to all of our staff, councillors, visitors, media, and certainly all those people who are joining us via live stream. We've got Councillor Suarez joining us via Teams. Good morning, Councillor. And Councillor Johnston has advised that he's running a little late, but he'll be here shortly. I'd like the chamber to be upstanding, and I'll call on Councillor O'Prey to provide the acknowledgement of the traditional custodians. Thank you, Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, councillors, ELT and staff. On behalf of the Sunshine Coast Council, I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the Sunshine Coast local government area, the Kabi Kabi peoples of the coastal plains and northern hinterland, and on whose traditional lands we gather today, and of course the Jinnabara people of the southern hinterland. We wish to pay respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the important role that First Nation people continue to play within the Sunshine Coast community. Together we are stronger. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Please remain upstanding. I'd like to invite Pastor Paul Lannon from the Yandina Baptist Church to read the opening prayer. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Chairman Mert. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you today acknowledging our need of you and our dependence upon you. I thank you that government, federal, state and local has been ordained by you and operates surely within your bounds. Thank you that as we humbly look to you for wisdom, you give us the wisdom we seek. We come to you and ask for your wisdom to be brought to this local government meeting, that the decisions which are made would be just and equitable, recognising that a diverse range of needs, wants and desires is being represented, and that only by your wisdom can equitable outcomes be attained. We acknowledge the responsibilities we have as servants elected to serve our communities, including those who have no voice or influence. May we serve all with integrity. But we recognise too our responsibilities to uphold the rights and needs of our own families amidst the clear and urgent pressures of our position. We thank you for the opportunity to serve our community and providing us with all the capacities of physical and intellectual health necessary to undertake that calling. May we provide ably with humility, dignity and good humour those we're called upon to serve. We ask these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Paul. Please be seated. The minutes of the ordinary meeting held on 21 September 2022 have been received and confirmed. Someone move receipt of those. Thank you very much, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Babarowski to second. All those in favour of receipt? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. There is no mayoral minute. Councillors, I remind you of the requirements of the Chapter 5B of the Local Government Regulation 2012, which sets out how councillors' conflicts of interest are managed in local government matters, and these requirements apply to how we deal with such matters at this meeting. So if you do have any conflict, please raise that prior to the item being addressed. Item 7, we have 3 presentations, and the first of those is recognition of our Sunshine Coast Biosphere Reserve designation, which I'm presenting, so I'll go around to the back turn. Good morning. The Biosphere certification presentation. Our council has a strong history of preserving and enhancing our natural assets and is continuing to deliver on our vision of being Australia's most sustainable region. This commitment was strengthened once again in June this year when the Sunshine Coast was officially recognised as a UNESCO Biosphere. This historic announcement was a result of more than 6 years of hard and dedicated work and collaboration with our residents and our Biosphere Community Reference Group, who did a fantastic job in leading the charge. Together we developed the nomination that will now help us continue to protect and enhance our region as we grow, including our communities, the economy and the natural environment now and for future generations. This designation brings opportunity to those already doing business or thinking of investing in our economy by providing a competitive advantage to facilitate sustainable growth, along with a range of benefits to our natural environment, lifestyle and economy. Since the announcement, we have shifted into our implementation phase and have established our governance arrangements. We're finalising our performance measurement framework, and next week, November 3, we'll celebrate our first International Day for Biosphere Reserves with our inaugural Sunshine Coast Biosphere Photography Showcase, which celebrates our community's connection to living in our biosphere. So I look forward to our ongoing collaboration at a national and international level and through the Global Biosphere Network, providing opportunities to partner and develop local solutions to local environmental, social and economic challenges. Thank you, everybody. Dave Moore coming forward to share in the joys of this recognition. Councillor Cox has indicated he's happy to second that. Thank you. All those in favour of receipt? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Our second presentation is Councillor Cox, Sunshine Coast Recreation Parks Plan for 2021 to 2031. Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's with great pride that I get to announce that Council's Parks and Gardens branch has won an award for their fantastic work on Sunshine Coast Recreation Parks Plan 2021 to 2031. The award I'm presenting today is from the Parks and Leisure Australia National Awards for Excellence in the category of Best Strategic and Master Planning across the country. So I'll just remind you that there's over 530 councils in Australia and we're number one. You may recall that the Recreation Parks Plan was endorsed by Council last year in December and won the state level award back in June. The Recreation Parks Plan is essentially a roadmap for parks on the Sunshine Coast, providing planning tools that support Council's commitment to preserve spaces and parks which promote a healthy lifestyle and environment. The plan also helps the community to understand where and why Council locates park activities and infrastructure that supports their recreation. It's one of the many ways that Council is delivering upon the environment and livability strategy, which provides long-term direction to guide growth and shape our sustainable future for the region. So it's my pleasure to present this award to the Parks and Gardens team, and today we have obviously Nick Coluccio and unfortunately JP is not able to join us today, but we are supported by the rest of the team. We have Reese, Helen and Stacey, and we've got a couple of other absentees as well. So I'd like to invite Nick and maybe the team up, if that's okay, and we'll present this national award. Well done.
So moved by Councillor Cox, seconded by Councillor Dixon. All those in favour of receipt? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. And the third item is Councillor Natoli, the Mooloolaba Foreshore Revitalisation Stage 1. Thank you, Councillor Natoli.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two awards that Council has received for Stage 1 of Mooloolaba Foreshore Revitalisation, and those two awards are from the Institute of Public Works Engineering Australasia, Queensland and Northern Territory. Excellence Awards in the month of the 11th of October. The $16 million Northern Parkland won the category for the best project between $10 and $20 million, in addition to being crowned as overall project of the year. It's a massive achievement. The prestigious awards recognise outstanding community economic contributions through exceptional project planning, stakeholder engagement, innovation, sustainability and environmental management. The hectare of multi-level beachfront parkland complete with the 200-metre accessible boardwalk, viewing platforms, state-of-the-art playgrounds, renewed seawall, public amenities and community infrastructure is attracting thousands of additional visitors to the Mooloolaba Foreshore and injecting $5.5 million worth of extra expenditure into the local businesses each year. And I certainly know that the northern part of the Esplanade is certainly benefiting, as other businesses in Mooloolaba are as well. That's first-hand discussions that I've had with many of the retailers there. It has been received very well by the community since opening, with extensive use of the facilities being witnessed by our community and visitors alike. Whilst it's a project that literally reaches into all areas of the organisation, there are too many staff involved to be listed here today. I'd like to give special mentions and thanks to both Jamie Franklin and Adam Stewart for their passion and commitment to achieving these outstanding outcomes, and to Kobe Factor, who has managed the comms and really done an incredible job as well. So I'd like to present these two awards, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Please come forward. I think we've got Ben, Chris, Jamie, Adam, Russell and Cameron. Please come up. Good timing, Councillor Johnston. Well done. So I've got a mover in Councillor Natoli. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Cox. All those in favour of receipt? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Welcome, Councillor. We'll move on to item 8.1, which is the lease around the Sunshine Coast City Hall commercial suites. And I invite Lee Pryor, Councillor Natoli.
I'm happy to move this, Mr. Mayor, but I just want to clarify just a point that Councillor Law brought to my attention. I haven't seen the article in the Sunshine Coast Daily, but my comments in regards to being approached by, not approached, but discussions that I've had with 3 retailers that were aware that there were spaces underneath the building. All I did was take their details and hand them on to the organisation. I've had no other involvement at all other than to relay their interest to the council. They've gone through that process. That's all. I wanted to clarify that because obviously the way the article's written, maybe it's been written in a different way that people can interpret anything more other than that.
Thank you, Councillor. Lee, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report has been submitted to seek an exception from Council in accordance with the local government regulations. The exception seeks to market and lease the commercial suite tenancies within the Sunshine Coast City Hall building on the open market rather than through a further tender. The exception would be subject to the finalisation of the tender, which closed on the 10th of October 2022. The Sunshine Coast Council has undertaken the development of the new Sunshine Coast City Hall building, which is due for practical completion towards the end of this year. The new 9-storey Sunshine Coast City Hall building comprises of office accommodation for council workers, council chambers, meeting spaces, community spaces, a ground floor lobby with 3 commercial tenancies. The 3 commercial tenancy spaces known as Tenancy 1, Tenancy 4 and Tenancy 5 comprise of a total gross floor area of 362 square metres. The internal tenancy areas are shown in red on the plans on the screen. Tenancy 6 on the ground floor has also been set aside for community tenancy space, which was not the subject of the recent tender release. Tenancy 1 is the largest tenancy and occupies a prominent corner with high exposure. The tenancy will suit a tenant which can provide all-day quality food and beverage dining. Tenancy 4 is a flexible space which can be divided into up to 3 tenancies. what's earmarked for these spaces are grab-and-go food or boutique retail outlets. Tenancy 5 is the smallest of the tenancy spaces and would suit bespoke coffee shop with limited food preparation on site. Council released a tender in early September, which closed on the 10th of October 2022. No submissions were received in response to Tenancy 1 and 4, and submissions for Tenancy 5 are under consideration by Council officers through its normal tender process now. Council is seeking an exception to place these tenancies on the open market for private treaty renegotiations, subject to finalisation of the tender process. This will be immediate for Tenancies 1 and 4, and Tenancy 5 will go through its usual assessment process with Council officers. In the event the submission for Tenancy 5 is deemed acceptable, the award will be granted through the tender process. If no lease eventuates from this process, Tenancy 5 will also be released to the open market. It is recommended that Council resolve to apply an exception in this instance, allowing the tenancies to be marketed and negotiated on the open market rather than via a subsequent tender release, and subject to the tender process being finalised by Council officers. Open market and private treaty negotiations are expected to suit the lease of these tenancy spaces, as it will allow Council to be more competitive in a time-crushed market, provide Council with the opportunity to negotiate and counter-offer with prospective tenants, and take advantage of any marketing momentum through our agent. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. So you're happy to move, Councillor Natoli, seconded Councillor Babarowski. Would you like to open, Councillor Natoli?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, we've seen the same issue that we have with the park and go retail spaces below. In this current retail market, it is difficult through a very constricted process of going out to tender. We're almost disadvantaged by having to go through that process, but that's what the law requires us, and the law also requires us to make an application to the Minister for an exemption. So I totally support that we go through this process, and hopefully it won't be too far down the track that we'll see all these tenancies being operated.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Dixon.
Just while we're on the topic of New City Hall, because this is obviously part of the discussion, I'm just wondering if anyone could give the public an update on the green walls and the planting around the building. Is there anyone in the room that can talk about the vegetation and what that's going to look like and how we are? I've noticed the other day on the very top floor I saw some greenery starting to happen. Yep.
Thank you, Bill.
Morning all, and through you, Mr Mayor. Look, Council is certainly part of the construction and completion of City Hall. On all levels, on the external facades, there's a range of green plantings. Those green plantings have been in place for some period of time now through the construction of the building, and I suspect given the growth of those over the last few months, it's starting to become more noticeable to the community. They're going to support the softening of it and support the sort of the well-being, comfort and the overall appearance of that building. Certainly that will continue to be complemented by the Foundation Square, which is the park right next door, and other sort of streetscapes and otherwise plantings that will come with the buildings that are going to pop up around the City Hall in the coming years. So that's probably about all I can provide. It will be well and truly complemented by greenery inside the building, so it'll like the Queensland lifestyle and everything that we're trying to promote through the Yellow Book. It'll be like indoor-outdoor working to suit our climate.
And fair to say that the images that have been on and around the building during the construction will be a fair representation of the building in the future in terms of the green aspect.
Oh, absolutely, Mr Mayor, and through yourself. Certainly the image that has been portrayed for the design of the building, exactly what's coming to life at the moment. The building is readily visible to the community, with only the ground floor that is still behind the security fencing and the hoarding, while the works have been finalised on the ground floor, and the outside spaces in and around the building. So absolutely, the design of the building will absolutely be reflected in the finished product.
Super. All right, no further speakers? Do you need to close, Councillor? No. We'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thanks, Lee. Item 8.2 is the systematic inspection program for regulated dogs. And Tanya Esser and Shana are here. Welcome, Tanya. Tanya's got a brief presentation.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present the systematic inspection program for regulated dogs. Dogs are regulated dangerous or menacing when they've attacked, causing serious injury or fear to a person or an animal. The regulation results in mandatory conditions which must be adhered to by dog owners at all times that mitigate further incidents. Excuse me. These include collars and tags that must be worn at all times on and off the property, as well as signage that's placed at the entrance to the property so people are aware that there's a regulated dog at the property. The systematic inspection program provides a mechanism for council to ensure that dog owners meet these requirements at all times. The program is required to be endorsed by council and is undertaken annually. It is funded by the registration fees for regulated dogs. There are currently 128 regulated dogs requiring inspection on the coast. The program runs from the 14th of November to the 13th of November of the following year. With our approach to compliance, we can issue an on-the-spot fine of $1,006. We can seize the dog if required, but generally we work with owners within the compliance and enforcement policy to ensure that they comply with these requirements. These generally minor matters such as latches and springs that have been broken. The officer recommendation is that council improves the program for the 2022-2023 year. Thank you.
Someone to move? Councillor Dixon, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Johnston, thank you.
Well, good morning, and thank you firstly to Tanya Esser and the team for this. It's something that we have to do, and as far as my opinion goes, and I get a lot of inquiries from residents, the Sunshine Coast Council actually is a very pro pet and dog friendly council. I've got 2 pets myself, 2 Kelpies, and absolutely love dogs, and it's great to be in this portfolio because I have a lot to do with pets and responsible pet ownership, and I've actually learned a lot being a dog owner. It's amazing when you have the dogs, you actually learn a lot. And when I'm out and about talking to people, I think their attitude has changed significantly about this council, because if you actually think about many, many years ago, we were getting lots of dog attacks. I remember seeing the executive director in front of the news, national news, about dog attacks on the Sunshine Coast, and some of that's really fallen away because I think the education that we're doing, the pop-ups, the team are doing so many pop-ups on the Sunshine Coast. I know there's about 5 or 6 planned in my area in the next few months. We're actually getting out there. And one question I had recently about the increase in registration fees for pets, why has council gone up? Although we're one of the lowest dog registrations in Queensland. We're actually putting more money into getting staff out and about because they've asked us to be at the beach. They've asked us to be around the lake at Brightwater. They've asked us to be around the lakes at Sippy Downs. People have been asking us to get out there more, and that's what we're doing with the revenue that comes in, getting out and educating people. My complaints to my office from the community have gone down substantially, and I don't know about other councillors, but there are pressure points in the region, and I feel the team are doing an exceptional job to get out and educate. On the subject of dogs, some pet owners aren't responsible, and it's a minority. Most people do a fantastic job. Dogs on leash, they've got their bags, they're picking up after themselves. It's fantastic. But there are instances where dogs will do damage to other animals or humans, and we need to take that seriously. And if you are thankful enough to be able to keep your dog, and you've got to go through a pretty strict process about signage, the collars, making sure your fencing and gates are secure, we will monitor that, and it's a fee for service here. We make a certain amount of money, we spend it doing the audits every year and making sure that those yards are safe. And I just want to close on one compliment, and the CEO may not like this, but when I contact staff on a Sunday, hey, just had an urgent inquiry from a resident where a dog has broken a fence paling and is barking loudly at children through the fence. The staff have actually dropped what they're doing on a Sunday and gone out there and actually actioned that and actually taken that custodianship of having a safe community. And that really impresses me because that means our staff aren't just doing a job 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. They're doing this 7-day job of caring for the community and responding where response is needed. I think we're doing a fantastic job in this space, and as a dog owner, I'm very proud of this council.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Any further speakers? Thank you. Okay, we'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. We're going to move on to item 8.3, which is the September 2022 Financial Performance Report. And I invite Isaac to give a presentation, and welcome Michael as well.
Good morning, Mr Mayor, councillors. Here today to present the September 2022 Financial Performance Report. Council, at the end of September, we had an operating result of $100.6 million, which is favourable to our expected budget of like $3.4 million. Our revenues in the operational side were $4 million above budget, while expenses were also above budget, about $569,000. In terms of our revenues, holiday park fees were still ahead of the expected budget for September, and our return on investments are also very high due to the change in interest rate market conditions. For the expenditure, we had additional unbudgeted operational expenditure incurred for the February to April disaster, which will form part of our disaster claim with QRA. The Capital Works program is 16.8% complete. It's a $49.5 million spent, about $295 million program, and the core program is sitting at 16.9%. Cash for the end of the month was $397 million. Our debt was sitting at $472 million. We still have scheduled borrowings for this financial year of $34.2 million. Some more detail on our investments. We have 16 term deposits totaling $160 million. They mature the range of days between 30 and 180, and our average interest rate return is 3.42%. Included in the report, councillors, is the re-adoption of the Minor Works program, which is a change to one project in Division 6 with the Petition United Soccer Clubs. And the recommendation is to receive and note the report and also endorse the Minor Capital Works program.
Thank you, Isaac. Someone to move, please. Councillor Hungerford, thank you. A seconder. Councillor Dixon, thank you. Would you like to open, Councillor Hungerford?
Through you, Mr Mayor. I think Isaac's covered all of that, and I read them out each month. The thing I'd like to point out is we're consistent. Consistently good financial management and everything within the parameters. I'm not going to read all those out again. I do it most months. With the Capital Works program and the weather we've been having, we're still, 16.2% completed there. That's magnificent because we're actually keeping up on things. And the other one is Queensland Treasury has indicated we're looking at our 14th unmodified audit in a row. And they'll come into the Audit Committee report later on. But I'd just like to say to the staff and all in the organisation, it's just such consistent, good management, and we've got balanced budgets and we're keeping things within the parameters the whole way. I'm not going to read all those figures out, you've covered them, and it's the same month after month, consistently good management. So I'll put this to you, councillors, we're well on track to meeting our commitments and keeping that balanced budget for this financial year at this rate.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Dixon.
Through you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to touch on something publicly because Isaac did mention this in the report. We had some recent vandalism at Brightwater in Mountain Creek. The Bedina Soccer Club have actually got a lease over council land on the soccer oval. And there was reportedly about 70 youths that descended onto the soccer field, destroying temporary goalposts. And obviously these clubs raised a lot of money through sausage sizzles and grants and whatnot. And those soccer goalposts were pulled apart, taken down into the creek and thrown away and damaged. And that was even with CCTV in the park. They had the audacity to still commit the crimes with fantastic 4K night vision CCTV all on camera, and they've still gone and done that. when I was talking with our Sport and Rec department, we thought we'd come up with a better solution for the club, and working with Isaac and Michael from Finance, we found $25,000 in the Division 6 Capital Works program to reallocate towards putting some permanent goalposts in. So these will be full fixed steel, concrete in the ground, going to be very difficult to rip out. Certainly not a challenge for the youths in the area, but to vandalise them further, but more a surety for the club that the infrastructure will stay in the ground. And this is to clear show that council will pivot. When we have these issues come up within our community, we will pivot and prioritise what's important. And not only will this be good for the new soccer season when it starts, but the community will have these permanent goalposts that will be there. So if you're coming after school or whatever it is on the weekend and you've got some time with your family, you'll be able to play on these soccer fields and have permanent goalposts there. So it's a great outcome, and the club actually said to me, without this money, they just wouldn't be able to afford to get the new goalposts, and that means hundreds of local young kids across the Sunshine Coast, not just in Mountain Creek, who would miss out on being out and about and enjoying the open space we have. So not only did I want to thank Sport and Rec for pulling this together, but Isaac and the team have done a fantastic job in helping me allocate this money and bring it to this meeting today.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. What has been done to identify the perpetrators, given we've got them on film? And how do we use that as a means of demonstrating that's not the sort of behaviour we want to encourage?
This is a very sensitive topic. I'll never say a bad word about QPS because I think they do a fantastic job among some very difficult circumstances. But whenever a Neighbourhood Watch or local community groups are raising these issues to QPS, they're under-resourced. And I've mentioned this to state members. We need more community policing in our area. And I'm sure that goes for the whole of Queensland as a state. The sad part is that because Neighbourhood Watch in Mountain Creek, specifically at Brightwater, weren't able to get the support of QPS, they've recently closed down in the last fortnight. So the Brightwater Neighbourhood Watch is actually defunct. It's been shut down and shut down by QPS because they just didn't have the volunteers coming forward. And the volunteers weren't coming forward because they didn't have the support from QPS. So, Mr Mayor, to answer your question, the footage is there. The footage is available. QPS are aware. Whether or not they will do anything or can do anything is just the question for everybody. And I think as a council, we just need to keep advocating to the state members to get resources into QPS because they're not doing a bad job. They're just doing the best job they can with what they've got.
So tell me, from the video footage, is it clear to identify?
Oh, many of them, absolutely. Yeah.
Should their parents be aware of that? Is there a way that... look, it's just crazy. People do these things, nothing happens.
Yeah. Well, I think, Mr Mayor, I think we're getting into a whole different discussion about the legislation for young offenders, which I think needs an overhaul, and also resources for QPS. But, the sad thing is, QPS, doing what they can do, but we've got CCTV and it's still not dissuading them or asking them to leave the area. It's very much, they're happy to do it right in front of the CCTV cameras. And I think that's a broader discussion we need to have because there's a lot of requests from the public about CCTV in every park. And if people are still committing these crimes with cameras right there in their face, is it a disincentive? I think there's a bigger discussion there.
Okay. We'll move on. Sorry, I didn't mark that down. Councillor Hungerford moved that, didn't you? And it was seconded by Councillor Dixon. Thank you, that's fine. Would you like to close, Councillor Hungerford?
Financial report.
Yep. Yeah. No, I know
we went off on subject.
We got off on a different tangent, but we're still on the finance.
No need to close it.
Thank you. We'll put the motion to vote. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Thanks, Isaac and Michael. Let's move to item 8.4, the Audit Committee meeting from 6 October 2022, and I invite Mr Matheson to give us a presentation.
Through the Mayor, good morning, councillors. The report before you provides the outcomes of the Audit Committee meeting on the 6th of October 2022. As councillors, as you know, there's a statutory requirement that the minutes and outcomes of Audit Committee meetings are presented to the next ordinary meeting of Council. So this report seeks to fulfil that requirement. There was effectively only one item that was considered at that meeting, which is standard practice for the meeting held at that time of the year, and that was for the Audit Committee to consider the finalised financial statements for the 2021-2022 financial year. You will have seen in the minutes the recommendation from the Audit Committee. I would just like to commend the diligence of our Audit Committee, which of course includes 3 independent members, Mitchell Petrie, Patrick McCallum and Sue Tyndall, and of course Councillors Hungerford and Natali. Spent quite a bit of time and were quite deliberate in their discussions and deliberations in relation to the framing of the recommendation to Council. It's fair to say, and I know I'm preempting to a little bit your consideration of the annual report and the financial statements at a subsequent meeting. But again, the financial statements represented another very good outcome for Council in the context of the last financial year. I just wanted to acknowledge and pay tribute to the leadership of our Group Executive Business Performance, Ms Heidi Roberts, and our Chief Financial Officer, Michael Costello, in leading that process. And I also particularly wanted to acknowledge the leadership and work of Ms Janine Wex, who led the financial statements preparation process, working closely with the QAO, and not without some challenges, because at a critical point in time, councillors, you may not be aware of this, a key staff member was ill right at a crunch point in terms of the finalisation of those financial statements, but they worked their way through that and still ensured that we're able to achieve our statutory deadlines. So I just wanted to acknowledge all the parties that were involved in that process.
Thank you, Mr Matheson. Someone to move the report? Councillor Natoli, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Hungerford. Would you like to open, Councillor Natoli?
I don't really need to add much more to what Mr Matheson has said. The Audit Committee, now with 3 independent members, is working really well, very diligent. You would see on page 59 the recommendation of the Audit Committee. They actually substantially changed that to be worded in such a way just to prove the amount of work that the Audit Committee had gone through in making sure that we were in a very good place to be able to support the draft general purpose financial statement.
Thank you, Councillor Natoli. Councillor Hungerford.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I echo Mr Matheson's comment on the staff, and it was a compressed program. This time we had extra requirements on us from the Queensland Auditor's Office, which put a lot of pressure on staff to get things ready in a compressed amount of time, which was a real credit to them because they actually made the timelines each time. So I acknowledge that. Just for the community, I'd like to read out the part of the general purpose financial statements and the recommendation here, just to show what strong financial management this council has. At the time or preparation of this council report, the Queensland Audit Office expect to issue an unmodified audit opinion in relation to the audited 21-22 general purpose financial statements and current year financial sustainability statement. That gives us 14 in a row. Clean bill of health each year. Having considered the final draft of the general purpose financial statements for 2021-22, the Audit Committee resolved the following recommendation to Council. The Audit Committee receives and notes the final draft financial statements and current year financial sustainability statement and the Queensland Audit Office closing report on its audit of these statements for the financial year 21-2022. The Audit Committee notes and acknowledges the positive outcome of the audit process and the hard work that has been undertaken to achieve this audit outcome. The Audit Committee advises that it has been actively involved in the preparation process throughout the year, and that process has reviewed previous drafts of these statements. It has received an update on changes which have occurred in those drafts up to the finalisation of this final draft report. On the basis of the work of the Audit Committee, subject to the completion of outstanding matters, we are not aware of any issue which would prevent Council from adopting this draft and approving the Council's financial statements for the years 21-22. That is a very clear and strong statement of total confidence in Council's financial statements. And to the staff again, with that difficult period and having a staff member off at a key time and being able to still make the time frames for the Queensland Audit Office is a magnificent achievement. And the community out there can be assured our financial management is second bar none. And we are very serious about it. So this is a very clear report there, and we should be, the Finance Department and everyone involved, and the community should be proud of the fact to have a council with such a focus on its financial management. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. Do you wish to close, Councillor Natoli? Not necessary. We'll put the motion. Sorry, my apologies. Sorry, I didn't pick that up. Councillor Babroff.
Councillor, so I just raised to my feet because I think I'm constantly reminded by Councillor Hungerford's commitment and genuine engagement with the auditing process and finances in general, and Councillor Natoli. And I think we're very fortunate as a council to have a complete, I'll describe it a word that's massively overused, a culture of commitment, of integrity, of really thoroughness. What does that mean? I often try to translate this to conversations I have with the community about our council and its financial position. For me, what it translates into is confidence. Really, that just describes an atmospheric of real confidence as a council that we manage the resources of this council incredibly well on behalf of the community. Why is that important? Well, it's obviously important for the obvious reasons, but more importantly, in a volatile market, something that is incredibly difficult to understand, we stand as something of a sanctuary, in my view. And that's very important for people who are considering to invest here, move here, or even just stay here, that they believe that the pipeline of projects that council are delivering are really solidly managed, well managed, and they have been for 14 years. I'm very pleased to be part of a council that takes this so seriously. It's a very complicated process given the scope and scale of the budget and the complexity of the projects that we've chosen to be involved in, our region-making projects. So again, I'd just like to compliment both the councillors for their ability to translate that to the body politic. But obviously, again, I just add my thanks to a remarkable team who are so committed to making sure that this region stays well managed, and that translates into fantastic confidence at a time when confidence and trust are absolutely paramount. So well done, everybody involved.
Thank you, Councillor Babarowski. We'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Mr Matheson. Move to item 8.5, which is the Sunshine Coast Investment Incentive Scheme. Alex Lever-Shaw and Andrew East Brown are here to do the presentation, and Danielle. This presentation includes a confidential attachment that, should it be necessary to deal with that in confidence session, we'll move accordingly. But I'll leave you to start with the presentation. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Sunshine Coast Business Investment Framework was approved in 2011 to secure targeted and suitable investment and reinvestment in the regional economy. To support this policy, the Sunshine Coast Investment Incentive Scheme was also approved to allow council a mechanism to encourage investment and job creation within the region through an application of either or both financial and non-financial incentives. A client has made an application under the Sunshine Coast Investment Incentive Scheme, which has subsequently been assessed in accordance with the above-mentioned guidelines and overarching business investment policy. The application satisfies the eligibility criteria under the SCIS scheme. This report now seeks council approval for the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate an incentive offer under SCIS to secure a valuable investment outcome for the community. The client is a global professional services company that provides services through digitally enabled intelligent operations, or it digitises its client operations to help them achieve efficiency and or traceability. The company's clients, both locally and abroad, are themselves large entities across a myriad of sectors, including finance, retail, technology and healthcare. In response to current and projected growth, the company is assessing locations for expanded operations within Australia and has narrowed its extensive and detailed selection process down to 2 preferred strategic locations, with the Sunshine Coast being one of those locations and the only location in Queensland. Should the client determine to set up operations within our region, we can expect to see capital expenditure in the securing and fit-out of new offices and a large number of new professional job opportunities for the local community. When fully scaled and operational, based on minimum expectations, this investment will generate over $160 million in recurring expenditure and employment, both direct and indirect, for over 500 full-time equivalent positions. Officer recommendation, as the screen, the officer recommendation is for the CEO to approve and negotiate an agreement under SCIS with the applicant. To you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Somebody prepared to move? Councillor O'Prey. Seconded, Councillor Babarowski. Thank you. Now, Councillor, we need to go into a confidential session to facilitate what you want to discuss.
No, Mr. Mayor, it's quite timely. My first opening remarks were about the reminder of all councillors to be very sure that if we are going to go into the detail, that we are to request to go into a confidential session. I believe this is absolutely paramount and critical in this element. This is a big-time business and there's a lot of money at stake here, and I'd like to make sure that if we basically don't stuff this up, Mr. Mayor. So I don't need to. I don't require to go into a confidential session for my opening remarks, but thank you for that.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, firstly, before we even talk about this item, this is the last item. We're at 9:46. I think this is a marvellous OM. In fact, probably one of our best proficiencies. Congratulations to the staff on that one and yourself. I'd also welcome, while I'm congratulating everyone, of course, to Alex Levershaw and your team, particularly in the business innovation branch of economic development. What a wonderful opportunity this is. We don't see a lot of these come across our desk, Mr. Mayor, and when we do, they've been in the past been incredibly successful. And I guess what we're looking at here is, and you talk about it a lot, raising the bar and raising the average household income and getting closer to that state average. And this is genuinely one of those cases that I'm very proud to be supporting here today. Our investment attraction scheme has been going for a number of years, and like I said, there's only been a handful that have taken it up, and I think this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. If we had a look at Alex's second screen there that they offered today about the company, talking about hundreds of thousands of employees across the world, and it's a global company and something that we should be very proud of to bring to the Sunshine Coast. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'm very happy to discuss it more if we do go into a confidential session, but with that, I'd strongly support the council to support this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Landsberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd just like to reinforce a fellow councillor's position, but I would support going into confidential session to discuss this because I wasn't here at the agenda review, and there's a couple of questions I'd like to ask the officers. Thank you.
Okay, so would you like to move then that we go into confidential session for that purpose?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Just before we do, councillors, before we move into confidential session, do any of you wish to declare any personal interest in relation to the items to be discussed? If you do, you're also required to declare those interests when council resumes open session to make decisions on these items. In relation to item 8.5, the Chief Executive Officer advises that this attachment contains confidential information regarding negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving Sunshine Coast Council, for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of council. For these reasons, it is recommended council close the meeting under section 254J (3) of the Local Government Act, Local Government Regulation 2012, to consider and discuss the information in these reports, noting, of course, that council's decision on this agenda will be made during open session, which will be viewable to the public. So Councillor Landsberg has moved, Councillor O'Prey has seconded. Can I see all those in favour, please? So that's carried unanimously. So we'll now move into confidential session. Okay, we'll go back into open session. We're in open session now. We'll ratify the adjusted recommendation that adds that the item was discussed in confidential session. Our mover is Councillor Landsberg. Would you like to?
In confidential session, and look forward to support from my fellow councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no other speakers. We'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Alex. We look forward to a positive outcome on that. There are no notices of motion. Item 10.1 is a petition from Councillor Natoli regarding the parking of caravans, trucks, boats and trailers in residential streets in Parrearra. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a petition with 15 signatures of local residents, and I'll read it. We, the undersigned, respectfully petition Sunshine Coast Council to 1. Change the laws regarding residential street parking of caravans, trucks, boats and trailers. 2. To place a no-through road sign or removable bollards at the intersection of Barbados Way and with Sunday Street to stop vehicles going to the end to access Quina Way, then speeding back out when they can't, and risking accidents with cars, leaving with Sunday Street and pedestrians trying to cross the footpath because of the poor visibility due to park vans, caravans, boats, trailers on both sides of the street. 3. Restricted parking to left-hand side, yellow lines, on right-hand side from Trinidad Street to the end of Barbados Way to give clear vision when leaving with Sunday Street. 4. Council fence at the end of Barbados Way has been cut in numerous places and small cars, unregistered bikes and quad bikes speed through there to Reed Paddocks and Quina Way. This end of Barbados Way has also become a dumping ground for stolen vehicles and an eyesore, and we believe devalues our properties. The lead petition was Rosalie Cashin. If I could just quickly speak to this. When this was brought to my attention, apparently an inquiry had gone through the council. Nothing apparently happened. So I've actually organised to go on site to meet the resident with some of our officers just to go back through and just walk through. I often find, Mr. Mayor, that when we do that, we can end up with a different outcome, because I think visually seeing the issues rather than do desktop sort of studies can often end up with a much better outcome for the residents and for the process that we go through. So just to let you know, if I can hand this to the CEO.
Sorry, no, we don't have questions on petition. Someone to second the receipt of the petition, please. Councillor Johnston, thank you. All those in favour of receipt? That's carried unanimously. Well, we don't normally do questions on petitions.
That gets in the way. You can't regulate or stop a vehicle parking that's legally registered on a carriageway. So there's a bit of an issue here. How can we stop them from doing? Yeah, how can we stop them when Traffic Act says if it's legally registered, it can park on the carriageway legally. I mean, we can't deny them of that, so I'm finding it, because I've got the same issues in my area, it's very frustrating, so I'm just wondering
Well,
what the petition's actually asking for.
Yeah, well, maybe Councillor Natali can come back to us.
I just want to clarify that point. I've had a discussion with Revitalisation. The issues, the other clients that prevent the caravans being parked so close to the intersection. I think I understand clearly what Councillor Hungerford had said, but this relates to a few other safety issues that they've brought up, where our officers have previously said no.
Yep, okay. All right, that brings us to the end of this ordinary meeting. So I'll close the meeting at 10:08.